Hello, everybody. My name is Connie Clark, and I am excited to have with me today Chris Collins from PeopleToGo. And we have this wonderful topic that we're going to be talking about, which is really all about how to attract and retain talented employees. And really, this is, you know that I'm in the field of tech, and so is Chris. So this is slanted that direction. So, Chris, welcome to the Facebook Live here. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank
You're
you for
com-
having me, Connie.
you're welcome. You're coming in from, let's just tell our listeners you're coming in from Ontario, right? What part? Toronto?
Yes, I'm in Whitby, Ontario.
Perfect. So let's just jump right into it. Let's just talk about, is there more job openings than there are technology resources out there? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, there is a supply and demand issue right now. The In Canada, both commercially and from a consumer level, we're consuming a tremendous amount of technology, which drives the need for IT resources up. And it truly is a battle for companies of all sizes to attract and retain top technology talent in this very volatile labor market.
So, okay, so how does this affect employers? Like, if we're having so much trouble attracting it, does that mean we don't get them, or how is this affecting them?
No, it means you need to have, I call it a paradigm shift in how you approach your hiring process. You need to make sure it's very, very hiring talent centric. So you're focusing on the needs and wants of the individual job seekers. And in the last couple of years, with the concept of the Great Resignation, my opinion is job seekers have become more contemplative. They no longer just want to work for a company; they want to work for a company that has organizational purpose, a
Mm.
solid culture, very healthy workplace culture, and can grow personally and professionally. Right?
Mm.
So there's more employers can do to enhance that experience from the very beginning. And of course, retaining them is another story altogether.
Right. We may have wanted to invite a few more people in here, like Lori Power and Lisa Dobb, on the whole culture aspect of things. But yeah, because that's definitely the employees are looking to where's a good place for us to land here. I think one of the things that you've mentioned before is just at least in talking with me, the top tier candidates are scarce. Is that a true statement still? That top tier?
I say very much so. It really does depend on the technology resource you're looking for. If you look at cybersecurity as an example, which is something that impacts every single company in this country, not globally, is there's 25,000 open opportunities for cybersecurity specialists. We just don't have enough people to meet the demand, right? And we are facing some critical labor shortages in this country, which can have a very negative impact on businesses of all sizes and stunt Canada's status as a leading global innovator.
Wow. So I'm just going to back up for a second. The top tier candidate, can you just define what that really means?
Well, it's somewhat subjective because it depends on the company and the type of needs they have. But there are some, what I consider to be maybe call them the equivalent of the PhDs in their respective technology disciplines. Very high level certified Cisco resources. An example, we call them CCIEs. These are guys that are pretty much the equivalent of the PhDs in the parlance of how I look at things.
Hmm.
Very, very difficult to find, right? And very difficult to attract because there's an abundance of opportunities out there for them. But it's not just at the high end, the very high end of the technology scale where companies are struggling to find talent. It's at all levels, right? And there's a lot of variables that go into what can companies do to mitigate the impact of not being able to find these resources or retain them, right? And that's where organizations like yours and mine can help.
Right. So yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So, I mean, because traditionally I would think I would, if I'm looking for some IT support, I talk to an IT company and they give me all the support I need. Why do I need to go further than that?
Well, it depends. Right now, a lot of companies need skills they don't have on staff right now. So
Mm.
they will buy those skills, go to the market and buy those skills, often from other technology providers, but they might also need to do contract or permanent hiring,
Mm.
right? So right now we're in a very candidate driven market. Candidates are entertaining a multitude of opportunities, different pay scales, different pay ranges, different, packages attached to all of this. And you really need to focus on that employee experience. But one thing that really matters to a lot of job seekers these days is this a place I can grow? What about, talent development opportunities, right? Career progression planning. How do I continue to enhance my technology skills to stay relevant in this very competitive marketplace?
Chris, I'd like to share a couple of stats from this PDF that I downloaded from your website. So just for everybody that's watching, if you're interested, if you go to the PeopleToGo.com website, they have the wonderful resources there. And in the thought leadership menu is this one resource that was written by one of their staff members, Caitlin, with all their knowledge. And they have a lot of pages of information, and one of them here is just looking at that tech industry at a glance. And I think this goes back to what you were saying earlier about the growth part of it here. So 9.4% industry growth in the last 5 years, with 24% of the people in the digital economy being directly employed by the tech sector. I mean, those sound like pretty high numbers, and that's what's got you guys, concerned about this whole need for retaining and attracting those employees, isn't it?
It is. I mean, there's other challenges attached to it. In the last 2 years, immigration basically came to a grinding halt. I mean, people were still able to immigrate here, but not in the same numbers as before. It's part of the reason the federal government is trying to fast track this process right now, is that there's lots of foreign skilled workers around the world who would love to immigrate to a very multicultural country like Canada. It just doesn't happen quick enough. So we are truly facing, critical labor shortages that come down to a supply and demand issue. So we have to develop some forward-thinking policies to create sustainable pipelines of talent. But in the meantime, focusing on employee experience and focusing on upskilling and training your resources is a very valuable asset to help you retain that talent, over the long term. Obviously, the cost of a hiring mistake or losing a valuable employee can be very consequential for a business. So that's why organizations like Mission Computers can really help from a technical training perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Definitely would love to help. And I guess something has to be said to a little bit earlier. We were talking about, I mentioned just, hiring my IT company, and you talked about, making sure they have the right resources. And so this kind of goes to the myth that, and you've probably heard this before, I know I've definitely heard it, is that, you're a computer person, so people think you know everything. You know everything to do with technology, and that's just absolutely impossible. So we all have our talents, we all have our specialties, and if we don't, then we're maybe not going to be as high level of an expert as we could be, right? Because if I do everything, how am I going to be good at anything? So is that what we're talking about too, Chris? Is just that the multitude of positions and experts we need in this field is maybe not really known to the average person that has no idea about the tech world.
Well, the technology continues to evolve at a feverish pace, and it's, in my opinion, categorically impossible to keep up with it. And it's diversifying at an incredible speed. So things that are very top of mind now for a lot of organizations were not necessarily top of mind 3, 4, 5 years ago, and that will continue to change and evolve. So we need, again, this is why it's so important to have a sustainable pipeline of top technology talent that the Canadian and American companies, or any companies in this country, can draw from to continue to drive successful outcomes for their businesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and can you tell us a little bit about? So let's talk a little bit about your company, PeopleToGo, and who you have that can then help everybody out there that's looking for these resources, and how do you keep your people engaged and with you and inspired and educated and so on? I mean, that's a lot of questions for you, but maybe you can take a stab at that.
Yeah, I'll give you the high level overview. So, PeopleToGo is a technology services and staffing company. We've been around for about 21 years. We service all of Canada and the US, and we have approximately 600 technology resources supporting our customers across Canada and some in the US on a daily basis. That number continues to grow based on the demand for our services. I think what makes us different, though, is when we work with customers, we work with them in a very consultative fashion. We create awareness, we educate, we listen to their needs, we understand their pain points and challenges, and then we provide resources, services, and solutions to meet said needs. So the reason we put together this deck you have on your screen right now is because we want to create an awareness campaign for companies to understand that you can mitigate the implications of skills gap and labor shortages by taking care of your people. Is one way of doing it. There are others. So again, focusing on a very employee-centric experience, a healthy workplace culture, and your greatest assets are your employees. Develop that talent, right? They need people to be trained, right? And continue nurturing that training.
You said it. Develop your people. I mean, that's of course probably one of my biggest mandates, and how I speak. But it's hard because everyone is looking at their overall budget and their priorities within their business, and unfortunately, this seems to be one area that seems to get put to the side, or we'll do it next year, sort of thing. And during COVID, I think this happened a lot as well. So are we seeing the results of that, putting it to the side now happening, creeping in on our shortages, or what's happening?
I think that's a challenging question to answer for a lot of different reasons. I think that again, I think companies need to take a step back and look at their overall human capital needs. Like, what type of resources do I need, and what type of resources and services do I need to not just sustain our business, but to grow our business and continue servicing our staff and our customers. And again, I think a big part of that challenge is culture. It's about creating opportunities for people to rise, enhancing those skills through a process of upskilling or reskilling. But it's also about where can you get these resources when you do have to go to the market. This is a battle for all companies. Even staffing companies struggle day in, day out to provision talent to meet their customers' needs. So it is a war for technology talent, which is not going to get better. It's going to get worse, right? So in the meantime, though, there are, this piece of thought leadership we developed may help some companies to mitigate that impact. And that's the question that always comes down to, Connie, is what impact is there to your business if you can't get people with the right technology skills, right? So again, I'm the biggest proponent of training your staff, continue training them, helping them grow personally and professionally.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not training them, somebody else will, right? Or you're gonna not benefit from them knowing more and doing more. And I know one of my latest clients came to me because he was like, he said, well, I can hire a fifth staff person, or I can maybe look at making the four I have more efficient and effective with the technology we have. So maybe we don't need another person. Maybe it's just we need these people to use the technology in front of them or on our desks in a better way. So that was a fair question. I mean, are we not using our resources as far as we need to?
I think it's situational. I think some companies are, some companies aren't. I know our company, we've been a Great Place to Work certified 2 years in a row because we invest in our staff, right? There's tremendous talent and potential there, and we want to help these people rise. We want to make sure they have the skills, they continue to nurture their skills and develop new skills to keep us competitive. And that's what they want as well. So, and companies that don't invest in their people as consistently as they should, those people are at flight risk. And that's what we're seeing happen right now. People are leaving roles, including long-term tenured positions for many, many years because they want a new challenge. They just don't feel like their employer values them as much as they did before. And training and investing in your employees is one of many ways that you can start to mitigate the impact of these labor shortages. If you have to go to the market to find that new resources, it's likely going to be a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be a challenge to find the resources, but I think another big part of this, people that are leaving, like, because some employers we might be thinking, well, I'll find somebody else, and or I'll just have to cover it a bit. But the thing is, they left with their knowledge of who they've dealt with and what they've been working on. So, were they trained to the extent where they kept all that information in an organized fashion? So the minute they leave, you're like, okay, it's okay, I can go to Susie's desk or Fred's desk and or his computer and gain all the information as to where was he, what was he working on, what did he say to that last client. I mean, are they using their technology in that way? So I find sometimes there's a bit of a problem in that area where they're not able to kind of pick up where the last person left off.
Yeah, I mean, well, like all businesses, especially small businesses, you got to plan for the unexpected, right? And people will inevitably leave. Sometimes they leave just because they find an opportunity that's better suited for them, and you wish them well. But it usually leaves a skills gap. It leaves an experience gap within your organization, and you can't necessarily plug those holes quick enough, right? But in my experience, companies like ours that continue to invest in their employees retain them over the longer term, especially if you're paying. You've got competitive pay, you've got a very employee-centric culture with a lot of value add, and you take good care of them, they will take good care of you and your business and your customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so go back to what you said. You what was the distinction your company won or received as because of this employee retention?
Well, it's employee-centric. We have an employee-centric culture, so we earned recognition as a great place to work certified company, which, for clarity, is not a vanity metric for myself and my business partners who own the company. It's a celebration, acknowledgement of our people, and we continue to listen to our people. They use their voice, and we make positive changes for the good of our staff. And again, a big focus for us is professional development. Right? Mm-hmm. How do we nurture this incredible talent we have within the organization and help these people rise if they so want to rise, or even if they just want to upskill, right? I want to sharpen my skills with SharePoint or, Microsoft Teams, whatever it may be. They use their voice, we listen. But when you listen, you have to take action. Otherwise, it's disingenuous. So, of course, there's always room for improvement. We're constantly striving to be better, but we listen to our people, and we'll always listen to our people. And no surprise to us, our financials, our performance mix, employee morale, employee retention, all improved as a result of this. And this isn't overly complicated. It's not like we had to wave a magic wand. We changed our workplace culture. We focused on that employee experience, and things started to happen very organically. But that's testament to how the people adapted to the change.
Wow, that's great. No, that sounds fantastic. The only one thing I will add to the listening to your employees is maybe also, I think you've probably done this too, but I'm seeing this more and more with my customers, being proactive with what's needed, because they're not always going to say what they don't have, because they don't know. Sometimes they don't know that they don't know stuff, right? They don't know that they need to know Excel better. They need to know Teams, different parts of it, and so on. So as an employer, we need to be out there and seeing what's possible, and maybe do those tech audits, which is something I do. I'm not sure if that's what you would do as well, but a little bit of a technology audit just to see, okay, what are you guys using? How can we help you and fill in a few of the gaps that you might have, so that you can become more effective and efficient as an organization. So would that be fair?
Yeah, it's very fair. I mean, it starts with giving everybody a voice and letting them use it, but as senior leadership can also intervene and say, I got some suggestions or recommendations. We try and do this through a process of consensus and collaboration, right? So you can't expect employees are going to know, I really think I should get trained on this. It's always about the why for us, right? And we want to make sure that their needs and wants align with the needs and wants of the company. And our organization, we're very fortunate because they typically do. Right. But again, we never lose focus of that employee experience and continuing to develop and nurture that talent. So you've got to create opportunities for reskilling or upskilling. And it just doesn't have to be groundbreaking stuff. It can be very simple, low-hanging fruit where, you work with a training company like yours, or you bring in another outside consultant, whatever it may be. Create opportunities for them to enhance their skills. They will feel more valued, more respected, and chances are, if you're doing everything else right, you'll probably retain them over the longer term. These are some of what I consider to be somewhat low-hanging fruit things that businesses can do now to start to mitigate the impact of the volatility of the labor market. Because you lose some of your top talent, you're going to feel some pain, and the employees around you will feel that pain as well as they try and pick up the pieces. So do what you can to mitigate that by looking after your staff.
Right. No, very well said. And I think we'll end off here, Chris, I'll just kind of reiterate what you just mentioned. I love this idea of the employee culture, and there's definitely many more places you can go to. You'll see that I talk a lot with Lori Power and Lisa Daub, actually on all of my social media. So those are two great people to help in that area. And then Chris Collins here, I mean, he's the living proof of it, his company, and what he can provide to other companies as well. So improving that employee experience, reskilling, upskilling, giving more value to the whole to working together. I mean, this is where you spend most of your time. Why not make it more valuable and enjoyable as well? So thank you so much, Chris. I'll let you have the last words in terms of anything else you want to add to this, but it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope everyone watching has had a chance to gain some insights and leave some comments as to what you're doing with your group, and so that we can get some more examples going too. But Chris, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity, Connie. I mean, I quite frankly think we need more organizations like yours that can really help companies upskill and reskill their staff from a technology perspective. This is needed. So continue doing what you're doing, helping companies every day to do just that.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, goodbye, everybody.